You know what's wild? The average American works their entire life and might save up $1 million if they're lucky. Meanwhile, college football coaches are getting paid more to stop working than most people make in 10 lifetimes. Jimbo Fisher just walked away with $76 million for getting fired. That's more money than some small countries spend on their entire military. That's more than the GDP of like 12 different nations. But here's the thing everyone's missing. You thought this was about bad coaches getting lucky? It's actually about a multi-billion-dollar puppet show where the coaches aren't even pulling the strings. And the people who are pulling them, they're laughing all the way to the bank while your tuition goes up every year. So who's really negotiating these insane deals? Spoiler alert, it's not the athletic directors you see on TV looking sheepish at press conferences. It's a shadow network of super agents, billionaire boosters, and lawyers who've turned college football into their personal ATM machine. And the craziest part? The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Quick primer, in the last 5 years alone, schools have paid out over $500 million just to tell coaches to pack their bag. That's not a typo. We're talking about Jimbo's record-breaking $76 million golden parachute at Texas A&M. Dan Mullen walking away with $12 million from Florida after going 6-7. Ed Orgeron getting a $17 million handshake from LSU after winning a national championship just 2 years earlier. Scott Frost collecting $15 million from Nebraska for the privilege of losing to teams like Georgia Southern. Here's what this really means for everyday life. Every time you see one of these massive buyouts, that's money that could have gone to academic scholarships, facility improvements, or crazy idea, maybe not jacking up student fees again. But instead, we're essentially paying coaches more to leave than we pay most professors to stay for their entire careers. The average college professor makes about $80,000 a year. Jimbo Fisher made that every single day for the last 3 years of his contract, including weekends. And somehow, this keeps happening over and over again, like we're stuck in some kind of expensive Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray is a football coach and the only thing that resets is how much money we throw at the problem. The first thing you need to understand is that when you see a coach sign a massive contract, there's usually one guy's fingerprints all over it: Jimmy Sexton. This dude represents half the SEC, and I mean that literally. He's got Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze, Jimbo Fisher, Dan Mullen, and about 20 other coaches who've collectively been paid hundreds of millions to either coach or stop coaching. Here's where it gets beautiful. Sexton will call up Auburn and say, "Hey, Lane Kiffin's got an offer from another school." Then he'll call up that other school and say, "Hey, Auburn's really interested in Lane." Meanwhile, Lane's probably just sitting at home eating cereal, completely unaware he's supposedly job hunting. It's like if your real estate agent represented both you and the seller, except instead of a house, we're talking about $95 million contracts. And instead of getting a commission on one sale, Sexton gets a percentage every time one of his guys gets hired or fired. The man has turned coaching carousel into a literal carousel where he owns all the horses. But Sexton's not working alone. There's a whole ecosystem of agents who figured out that college football is basically unregulated Wall Street. You've got guys like Trace Armstrong, who represents coaches and also happens to be a former NFL player who understands exactly how to leverage relationships. These agents don't just negotiate contracts, they orchestrate entire coaching changes. They'll plant stories in the media about their client being unhappy or exploring options. They'll have their other clients publicly praise a coach right before contract negotiations. It's like a chess game, except every piece costs millions of dollars and the board is made of taxpayer money. And here's the kicker: athletic directors know this is happening. They know they're being played, but they're so terrified of missing out on the next great coach that they keep playing along. But even the smoothest agent needs someone willing to sign the check. And that's where things get really interesting. You might be thinking, well, at least it's the university making these decisions with their own money. Two problems with that. First, it's usually not the university's money. And second, universities don't make emotional decisions. Rich alumni do. Meet the real power players. The 12th Man Foundation at Texas A&M, Tiger Athletic Foundation at LSU, Crimson Tide Foundation at Alabama. These aren't just booster clubs selling hot dogs at tailgates. These are multi-million-dollar operations run by people who made their fortunes in oil, real estate, tech, and other industries, where throwing around $50 million is just Tuesday. When Texas A&M decided to pay Jimbo Fisher $76 million to go away, you think that came out of the academic budget? Hell no. That came from a group of boosters who got together in some private club, probably over $500 bottles of whiskey, and decided they were tired of losing to Alabama. The university just becomes the middleman. It's like if your parents hired a babysitter, but your rich uncle paid for it because he didn't like your behavior. Except in this case, your rich uncle is a petroleum executive who thinks spending $76 million to fire someone is a reasonable business expense. These booster groups operate like shadow governments. They have their own meetings, their own decision-making processes, and their own priorities that don't always align with what's best for the university or the students. Take LSU's situation with Brian Kelly. The boosters didn't just want to hire a new coach. They wanted to make a statement. They wanted to show that LSU could compete with anyone for top talent, so they offered Kelly $95 million over 10 years, fully guaranteed to leave Notre Dame. Did they need to offer that much? Probably not. But when you're playing with oil money and casino profits, why negotiate when you can just overwhelm the competition? And here's what's really wild. These boosters get tax deductions for their donations to the athletic department. So they're essentially getting the government to subsidize their coaching fantasies. The IRS lets them write off millions in contributions to athletic programs as charitable donations, which means when some oil executive drops $10 million to help buy out a coach, he's not just playing fantasy football with real money, he's getting a tax break for it. Here's where it gets worse. These contracts aren't accidents. They're designed to be buyout gold mines. Notice the pattern. Coach gets hired with massive fanfare, gets fully guaranteed contract because we need to show we're committed, wins some games, loses some games, gets extension because we need to show stability for recruiting, starts losing more games, boosters get restless, coach gets fired, walks away with generational wealth. And no, the offset clauses that are supposed to reduce buyouts if coaches get new jobs, those are either non-existent or written by lawyers who apparently went to the same school as the people who wrote your cell phone contract. Mel Tucker's $95 million deal at Michigan State was fully guaranteed unless he committed a crime. And even then, Michigan State had to prove it was a crime that directly affected his coaching duties. The contract was so coach-friendly that Tucker could probably have been caught jaywalking and still collected his buyout. Gus Malzahn got $21 million from Auburn for going 6-4. That's $3.5 million per win, which means Auburn essentially paid him more per victory than most people make in their entire careers. And Malzahn wasn't even that bad. He just wasn't Alabama-level good, which apparently is now a fireable offense worth tens of millions. But here's the really insane part. These buyout clauses actually increase over time instead of decreasing. Most normal contracts have buyouts that get smaller as time goes on, not college football. These contracts are structured so that firing a coach in year 2 costs more than firing him in year 1. It's like buying a car where the longer you own it, the more expensive it becomes to get rid of it. Except the car costs $95 million and sometimes doesn't even start. Which brings us to the part everyone gets wrong, thinking this is about finding the best coach. This isn't about coaching ability. This is about not looking cheap. These schools are pulling in $50 to $100 million per year from TV contracts. The SEC just signed a deal worth $3 billion over 10 years. The Big Ten's new deal is worth $7 billion. When you're playing with that kind of funny money, a $76 million buyout starts looking like a rounding error. Athletic directors aren't thinking, how do we build a sustainable program? They're thinking, how do we not look like idiots to our biggest donors? And the answer is always the same: spend more money. It's the exact same logic that led to the 2008 financial crisis. Everyone knows the system is unsustainable, but nobody wants to be the first one to stop playing the game because that means getting left behind. Florida gave Billy Napier a $31 million guaranteed deal after one decent season at Louisiana. Not one great season, one decent season. The man went 9-1 in a conference where half the teams probably couldn't beat a good high school squad, and Florida decided that was worth $31 million guaranteed. Nebraska paid Scott Frost millions to come home, and then paid him millions more to leave when the homecoming didn't work out. They literally paid him twice, once to fail and once to stop failing. And the media plays right into it. Every coaching search becomes a breathless horse race where reporters speculate about who's willing to pay the most. It's like covering the NFL draft, except instead of athletic ability, we're ranking schools by how much money they're willing to light on fire. The pressure to keep up is so intense that schools are making decisions based on what other schools might do, not what they actually need. It's like an arms race where the weapons are coaching contracts, and the only thing getting destroyed is common sense. But here's the most insane part. The system rewards failure more than success. Think about it. If you're a successful coach, you might get a raise or an extension. If you're a failed coach, coach, you get a massive lump sum payment and the freedom to go coach somewhere else or just retire to a beach house. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, where he was successful, to go to LSU for $95 million. With LSU firing him in the middle of his fourth season, he'll walk away with an estimated $53 million. Meanwhile, if he'd stayed at Notre Dame and kept winning, he'd have made maybe $12 million over the same 4-year period, based on his annual contract value at that time. The math is simple. It's more profitable to get fired than to succeed. And the people negotiating these deals, they get paid either way. Agents get their percentage whether the coach wins championships or gets canned lawyers' bill hours for both the hiring and the firing. Boosters get tax write-offs for their donation. Athletic directors get to say they swung for the fences when the hire doesn't work out. It's like a casino where everyone except the players is guaranteed to win. The coaches know this, by the way. They're not stupid. When Jimbo Fisher signed that 10-year, $75 million deal with Texas A&M, you think he didn't know there was a good chance he'd get fired before it was up? Of course he knew. But he also knew that getting fired would make him richer than winning championships. And that creates this perverse incentive structure where coaches have no real motivation to build sustainable programs. Why develop a system that takes 3 or 4 years to pay off when you can collect your buyout in year 2 and move on to the next opportunity? It's like if your job gave you a bigger bonus for getting fired than for getting promoted. How hard would you really try to keep that job? Meanwhile, who's actually paying for all this? Students, taxpayers, and fans who think they're supporting college athletics. Every time you see one of these massive buyouts, that money comes from somewhere. Sometimes it's directly from state funding, sometimes it's from student fees that get raised every year, sometimes it's from ticket prices that keep going up even though the product on the field keeps getting worse. The University of Nebraska is a public institution. When they paid Scott Frost $15 million to stop coaching, that money came from taxpayers. The same taxpayers who are dealing with inflation, rising healthcare costs, and stagnant wages got to subsidize a millionaire's golden parachute. And it's not just the buyouts. These massive contracts create a ripple effect throughout the entire athletic department. When you're paying your football coach $10 million a year, suddenly your basketball coach wants $5 million. Your baseball coach wants $2 million. Your strength and conditioning coordinator wants $500,000. Pretty soon you've got an athletic department where the lowest paid coach makes more than the highest paid professor, and everyone acts like that's normal. Students are taking on massive debt to get an education, but their tuition money is going to pay coaches who might not even be there by the time they graduate. It's like paying for a 4-year meal plan and finding out the cafeteria might close next semester. But don't worry, they'll still charge you for the food you're not getting. Simple fixes first. Salary caps, like every other major sport. The NFL has a salary cap. The NBA has a salary cap. Hell, even Major League Soccer has a salary cap. But college football? Nah, let's just let everyone spend whatever they want and see what happens. Harder but better. Independent oversight that actually has teeth. Right now, the NCAA is about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. They'll investigate a player for getting a free sandwich, but they won't touch coaching contracts that are bankrupting athletic departments. Baseline rule, if you're using public money or tax-exempt status, maybe don't pay people more to fail than most taxpayers make to succeed. But let's be honest, none of this will change until someone with real power decides to say no. And right now, everyone's making too much money to rock the boat. Remember that $76 million buyout we started with? It turns out that's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. The agents set the trap, the boosters fund the dream, and the athletic directors sign the check. Which is, frankly, the most expensive game of musical chairs in human history. Except when the music stops, instead of someone being left without a chair, someone gets left with a check for more money than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. If you want more breakdowns of how the money really moves in college sports, hit that subscribe button. And drop a comment below. What's the most ridiculous coaching buyout you've ever seen? Because apparently, there's always someone willing to pay more money for less success. And that, my friends, is the beautiful absurdity of college football in 2025.